This is why your life isn't working. This is why things aren't going your way. It's because you're disconnected from your truth. It will require your courage to reconnect into that. I am here to call you forward into a deeper experience of life. Not this shallow surface level. That is not getting us anywhere. My intention is to call you forward. You could be having a completely different experience of life. You're listening to the Awaken Broadcast with Cecilia Angel, a space for embodied awakening, honest human conversation, and a living, breathing connection to God's source. This is your invitation to awaken. Welcome back to the Awaken Broadcast. I am your host, Cecilia Angel. If you are new around here, I am a professional channel, but more importantly, I am a human being. I am a human being that has gone through deep spiritual awakening just to bring me back to the realization that your humanity is holy. Our humanity is the most holy thing that we can embody and embrace. And so my work is really focused around bringing you back to your humanity. And I have been facilitating next level transformations for almost a decade in that vein, recognizing that ultimately, you can remember the absolute truth of God. You can remember the truth of unity. But if you aren't here enjoying your life, then you are completely missing the point. And so my work is really focused around that. And this broadcast exists in order to help you to remember that as a truth so that you can get off the healing hamster wheel and start living your life already. Today, we're making a little bit of a change to the broadcast. If you've been following for a while, I've been dropping episodes every Tuesday. But I had a really big realization. I had a really big realization recently. So a couple weeks ago, I recorded 3 episodes of this podcast. And the first 2 just didn't record. I spoke into the ethers for 3 hours. The third one recorded, but my microphone didn't connect, and so the sound wasn't good. And I had been really trying. I'd been trying to get this done. And I had been feeling crunchy in my body about it. And then finally, I had a breakthrough and a breakdown. And it was actually the opposite direction. I had a breakdown into a breakthrough. I literally found myself sobbing on the floor of my shower because I was so overwhelmed and I didn't realize how overwhelmed I was until that moment. And then I found myself on the other side of that, realizing that I had created this reality for myself where I was feeling like I had so many tasks to do because this is a one-woman show. I edit this podcast, I record it, I also run a business around that. And so I was finding that all of my days were being consumed with creation, which I love. I love this podcast. I love the work that I get to do. It makes me so happy. I am truly obsessed with the job that I have created for myself. I couldn't ask for anything more. It is so aligned. I basically took all the things that I love and I made a business out of it so that I could be doing more of it. But what I found was that I wasn't doing all the things that I loved. Instead, I was spending all of my time editing and doing all these background tasks, which was stealing my life force. And so the realization that I had was that I don't actually need to do this every Tuesday. So going forward, the Awaken Broadcast will be every second Tuesday. And this just immediately brought me so much relief. Because if you don't know, for the last 1.5 years, I have been doing a huge behind the scenes build in order to make my work so ridiculously accessible. Because this is the most important job in the world. The biggest thing, and I've talked about it on this podcast before, the biggest thing that I see is a barrier for a life well lived is that we are disconnected from our bodies. We're disconnected from ourselves. We're disconnected from our life force, our aliveness. And this causes depression and anxiety and disconnection and distraction and addiction and anger and abuse and trauma and all of it. And ultimately, it's a disconnection from the source of life itself. And you can call that whatever you want, God, divine, universe, whatever you call the animating intelligence, the creator, the creating force, the force of creation, whatever you want to call that, we've been severed from it. And it's caused immense chaos within our individual bodies, but also our collective body. We look out into the world, we look out into humanity, and we see this disconnection and all of the symptoms of this disconnection. And so I always like to say that this is the most important job that anyone could be doing. Anyone who is doing work around healing, reintegration into the body, awareness, presence, connection to life, anyone who is doing that is doing the most important job in the world. And in order for me to facilitate the work to the degree that I do, I need to have spaciousness in my life. It is absolutely important. And this has been such a pillar of my lifestyle for years. But I have been so excited about the creation that I've been working on, all the projects I've been working on, because I want you to have access to this work because I know how important it is. And so for the last year and a half, I have been head down, heart forward, building, but I got to a point where, well, there's nothing really left to build. Now I just need to make sure that you know that I exist. And so I started the Awaken Broadcast, but I started it off because I was still in this let's go energy. I started it off dropping episodes every week, which until last week when I had my little breakdown in the shower, felt really good. I gotten into a rhythm. I was learning a lot, figured out how to edit video. I didn't know what I was doing when I started the Awaken Broadcast. I had no idea. I didn't know how to do this. I had to learn the skills as I went. You can see it. If you go back to the beginning of this podcast, you will see the journey that it has taken me to learn how to do this properly and make this something that you can receive well. I didn't know, but I was so excited about it. And so I was dropping episodes every week. But then there were other aspects of my life that are really important, like my relationships and my connection to the world. You know, I wasn't leaving my house because I had so many tasks. It just felt like a waste of time to leave and do things. And I don't have time. I'm just so busy. And I don't like that. And I'm the boss. I'm the boss of this one woman show. Nobody is telling me that I have to do anything any particular way. And so going forward, every 2 weeks, so that I can do other things and so that I can show up for you impeccably across all areas of my work. And then I can also be creating other things that will be supportive for you. So it is always my intention to make healing work really accessible. Because even if you just were listening to this podcast, your life could transform because I am sharing so much value here. But I can't show up for you on the level that I know that I want to and the level of integrity that I choose if I don't have the space in my life to enjoy it. I can't sit here and tell you to just enjoy your life and live your life already if I'm not doing that. And I caught myself in a cycle where I wasn't. So we're changing that. Oh, and it feels really good. It feels really good to be changing it. So if you have been following this podcast, obviously we skipped last week. We are in our new rhythm. Thank you for going on this journey with me. as I figure out what works and what's going to be sustainable long term, because ultimately my highest goal is to be in service to you and your awakening. And awakening is not just you have a realization and a remembrance and then that's it. Well, what happens after that? We talked about this in the last episode. What happens after the awakening? Because the awakening moment, the first moment of remembrance, and it's never the last. It's going to be moment after moment after moment of remembrance, remembering and forgetting, remembering and forgetting. Eventually, we close the gap between remembering and forgetting enough that it becomes a constant in our life and we live a more conscious way of being. But that's not where it ends. From that place, you get to find out, okay, well, from this more conscious, integrated place, where I am more connected to my body and my being, how do I want to live my life? Who do I want to be in the world? What matters to me? And we talked about this a little bit in the last episode, that oftentimes when we're healing from trauma and a dysregulated nervous system, it's basically the only thing I can see is what is immediately in front of me. And even that can feel overwhelming. And so the first thing that we do is we regulate the body. We let the body know that it's safe to feel what it feels and to experience what it experiences and to remember what it remembers. And there's work to be done in the integration of our actual trauma, because we have come from so much unconsciousness. And that, I've said it before, we don't have to point fingers and blame and say, well, they did this and they did that, and it's because of this, and now I am a victim of unconsciousness. We are all a victim of unconsciousness. You are not unique. You are not unique in the way that you have been a victim to unconsciousness, because we have all been existing as a collective in a primarily unconscious state. Yes, there are individuals within the collective of humanity that have awakened to more consciousness, but overall, humanity has been asleep. And so I always like to say, release your victimhood around that. I've been a victim to it. You've been a victim to it. Your neighbor's been a victim to it. Whoever you look out into the world at, we have been a victim of unconsciousness. And let's just take the charge out of that word for a second. There has been unconsciousness. Okay, let's get right with that. And it really can be so simple as just accepting that that's true and agreeing that you are going to just be okay with it. Yep, that's the time that we exist in. That is the time that we chose to incarnate into. Being on the cusp of sleeping and wakefulness. You chose to be here at this time for a reason. And you can waste so much energy crying about what has happened to you as a result of unconsciousness. And look, there's a lot of pain that comes from the unconscious state. Not only how we experience it ourselves firsthand, but the experience that we have of other people, primarily our parents. They are the ones that initially are in charge of the cultivation and the development of our body and our nervous system, our foundation. And so if our parents were unconscious and then the people around us while growing up were also unconscious and then society's unconscious, well, now we have learned unconsciously who we are and how to be in the world and what's important. And we've been conditioned through this unconscious state, right? And that causes a lot of pain. And that can range from just being disconnected from the self, and maybe there was depression in your family, or working too much, or a lack of emotional connection. And it can also range to such a depth of unprocessed emotion and intensity in the body that it's lashing out at everyone around me. So this could look like parents that lash out at children, or friends or family members that are lashing out and perpetuating more harm. In my world, I am supporting cycle breakers. I support cycle breakers. So if you are here, you are somebody who has chosen to break that cycle. You are the one who has decided that that actually doesn't work for me. That way of being is not supportive and it's not healthy, and I don't want to pass that on to my children. This is something that I thought of because I was raised in great unconsciousness and with a lot of trauma, really sincere trauma. And I had a choice. Either I continue to perpetuate those cycles and then I pass it on to the next generation and hope to goodness that they decide to be a cycle breaker, or I can do my part. And I can start to learn the practices, the tools, the philosophies, the ways of being that are moving away from the old unconscious patterns. And I can choose to wake up into consciousness. Now, this isn't some intangible thing. This is something that happens in and through the body. So most of our awareness within our body is off. We don't have awareness inside of our body. We actually have to turn on awareness intentionally. This is something we do consciously and something that takes practice. So we turn on awareness through the body and then we start to make choices from a more conscious place. Now, what I have found is that having some awareness of divinity, of a greater purpose, of the creative intelligence, the miraculous intelligence of the earth, of the cosmos, of this entire universe, of all that there is, having some awareness of that gives us a new blueprint of how to engage with ourselves and with one another and with this life. So that severance from our divinity made it so that we didn't know how to relate in a healthy way to ourselves, to one another, to life. Now, God, and I use the word God here, if you've been following the podcast, then you know, I use the word God to describe the unified field of consciousness that we can be in relationship to. So there is always an invitation here to come into relationship with all that there is as a supportive system, as a guiding light in your life. The intelligence that created all things, yourself included, is relational. You can create a relationship with life itself, God's source. And it's useful to do that because when you start to engage with that level of consciousness, one, when you give permission to divine God's source to be in relationship with you, and you have to give permission because we exist in a free will reality. Once you give that permission and say, God, be in presence in my life, God, be here in my life, when you give that permission, it will then start to engage with you from a more conscious place. It will make its presence known in your reality. Once that starts to happen and you start to realize the way that God relates to you, you will be given the blueprint of how to relate to yourself and all others. I have learned how to relate in a healthy way, not from my parents, not from my peers, not from society, not from the world. I have learned how to relate in a healthy way through the way that God relates to me, but that required that I turn on my awareness of a higher power. And so in my world, we are connecting to a higher power, not from some religious perspective. This is a completely non-dogmatic space. This isn't about religion. This is about your direct connection to that. So simultaneously, we are cultivating relationship with the divine, with the greater field, with the intelligence that animates all, that has created all things, God the Creator. We are building a relationship with that. We're realizing that we are just a drop in the field of God and that it is moving through us at all times, and we're bringing our awareness online to that. Then we are attending to our body in order to be a better conduit for divine consciousness to move through. So we're not keeping God outside of ourselves. God is outside of you. It is all around you, but it's also within you. And your body has been intelligently created as a conduit for that consciousness to move through. So we're learning from God how to perceive life and ourselves through the eyes of God. This requires that your body be online, that you have awareness inside of your body. Most people are floating heads, operating from the mind, They have no idea what's happening inside of their body. They don't know what they're feeling. They don't know how to navigate their emotions. In fact, we usually have a really negative relationship with our emotional body, with our energetic body. We don't like it. It's uncomfortable. It's too much. It's too sensational. I don't like it. I want to distract from it. I want to reach for something to cope with it. And yet you are always in your body, 24/7, 365. You are inside of your body, whether you like it or not. And so the invitation here in my world is to get right with that. Get right with the fact that you are here living and breathing inside of a body. Because so long as you are distracting from the experience that you're having, the embodied experience that you're having, if you're distracting and avoiding and disconnected and dissociating from it, so long as you are doing that, you are missing out on your life. You're not able to fully live. So around here, we are learning how to get into the body and to make this something that feels like home. So that we can relax, so that we can find ease, openness, connection, love, joy, play, maybe even have a little bit of fun. That's what I desire for you. So if you are new around here, welcome. I'm so grateful to have you here with me. My intention with this podcast is to sit here with you, to hang out with you, and to share what I have to share. And I feel that even though we're on episode 14? We're on episode 14. I feel like I'm turning over a new leaf because this was such a learning curve, such a new thing for me to dip into. And it has stretched me in every possible way, far beyond my comfort zone. So much so that I've had to quantum leap. I've had to let go of stories and identities and ways of thinking and feeling and being in order to show up to this in the way that I know that I can. And that has been a process. That's been a process. I have realized so much about myself just in creating the Awaken Broadcast. Things that I didn't even realize I was hung up on. This whole last week has been a big, deep unraveling of so many stories that were keeping me from just being myself all the way. I had a really big recognition recently that out of fear of judgment and what people would think of me and, I don't know, putting myself on the internet, well, it felt like a scary thing. Even though I've been sharing myself on Instagram for so long, this was different. This is long form. This is more of me than anything else that I'm doing. Learning how to feel comfortable just being who I am and sharing who I am and relaxing into it. This has been a somatic process to get here. And I'm grateful for it. I'm so grateful because more of me is coming online. This is part of my spiritual practice. And, around here, I like to really take spiritual practice outside of the box. It doesn't have to look the way you think it has to look. You don't have to check all the boxes to be a spiritual person. If you've been following the podcast for a while, then you know. You don't have to check all these boxes. You don't have to wear anything in particular. You don't have to do anything in particular to be spiritual. And if you think that you do, then you are just putting on a performance. You don't actually want to live a spiritual life at all. You want to impress other people. And that's not what this is about. This is about you living your best life. And I don't just say that like, oh my God, live your best life. I mean, you actually being here and doing the work to actually be here so that you can live your life, so that you can show up for yourself, for your relationships, for your family, for your children, which is arguably the most important thing that you could do. If you are a parent or you're planning to be a parent, you will be raising the next generation. And either you will pass on all of the things that you inherited from your family and hope and pray that they decide to be a cycle breaker, or you can do the work now. Even as a parent, you can be doing the work now to start to find more steadiness, more calm, more centeredness inside of you, more presence, more connection, more joy and love and play. What a beautiful gift to pass on, whether you are passing that on to your children or you are passing it on to your partner, your friends, your community. Maybe you're sharing that through social media. You're sharing the joy and the love that you've cultivated, but you can only do that when it's coming from an authentic place, when you've actually met yourself there, when you've actually cultivated that for yourself. The world is so over. We are so over, especially with the emergence of AI. We are so over the bullshit at this point because there is so much watered down, repeated, plagiarized content. It's hard to know what is real in a world where in a moment you could write an entire book, except it wouldn't be you at all. It would be a computer. In a world where AI exists and everything is washed out, the best thing that we can do in competition with AI is to be so completely ourselves. And that is truly, I've talked about this before, that is the greatest spiritual realization that you will always come to as you walk down the spiritual path. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what you came here for was to be yourself as completely and entirely as you are able, which takes bravery and courage. Because we're always looking externally. We're looking at other people as a reference point because we were never taught to look in and through our body. We were only taught to look externally. But when we learn how to look from within and we start to experience ourselves and we figure out who we are, then we get to operate from our authentic way of being, from our true self, our true expression. But we have to get through all of the weeds. We have to break through all of the noise of everybody else saying, well, you should be like this and you should be like that. And our fear of judgment and what are they going to think about me if I'm like this and I do this. And it takes courage. It takes bravery to actually just be yourself. That in and of itself is a journey. But your body is already holding the blueprint of your true self. You need look no further than your own body. But very rarely does somebody dare to look within themselves and to take the time to clear out all of the gunk that gets built up through an unconscious state. Very rarely does somebody do that. Oftentimes it's because we just don't know how. We don't know where to start. We don't know what the tools are. We don't know what the practices are. What does that even mean to look within? Most of the time we don't even know. I mean, if you have found your way here, congratulations. Congratulations for finding your way here. This is what I teach. This is my entire body of work. How to get back into your body and connected to yourself and therefore connected to the greater field, God source. So that you can know exactly, so you can get the clues, you can get the guidance, you can get the information that you need for your unique path directly from the source. And you can live and breathe that as a way of being rather than going around blind trying to figure out how to live your life. This is why your life isn't working. This is why things aren't going your way. It's because you're disconnected from your truth. It will require your courage to reconnect into that. I am here to call you forward into a deeper experience of life. Not this shallow surface level. That is not getting us anywhere. My intention is to call you forward. You could be having a completely different experience of life. There is something so magical that happens when you come into consciousness and you choose to operate from that place. And it doesn't have to look like counting beads and doing ritual after ritual after ritual and wearing all white and going and meditating on the mountain for 55 days. Like, it doesn't have to look that way. It really doesn't. And I have found that our story, the story that we've been operating from is that, well, spiritual people look like this and do this and it has to look this way and it has to be this way. That keeps us from our connection. Well, in order to have a spiritual life, I have to abandon my humanity. And that's just not true. It's just not true. That's a total bullshit lie, and it's keeping you from having a more spiritual connection. And I promise you, the missing piece in your life, that feeling of emptiness, is you being disconnected from life, from source, from something greater, from a higher power, from a recognition of your interconnected. It's like you are in this little bubble of loneliness, and I'm so alone and I'm so separate from everything else, and that's just not true. But you'll never know that unless you look inside. And you have to be sincere in your desire, because, I was talking to a friend the other day. So I was having a recognition of what a difficult niche I chose. This is really niche. And I didn't really realize how niche this was until I really started putting myself out there. But the work that I do is pretty niche. And the niche that I chose was quite difficult because the game of Earth is separation. The divine decided that it wanted to experience itself as a separate entity. It's actually all one. It's all just one consciousness existing. But in order to experience itself, God, source, divine, whatever you want to call it, has individuated itself into many different forms and created this separation, and then intentionally forgot the truth of itself so that it could have this very dramatic experience of life. And I get it. I understand why the divine would do that to itself and to us. I get it, because it's really fun to have drama, to bring the theatrics, to, I just don't know what's going to happen, and all the grief and all the joy and all the ecstasy of all. Yeah. And we don't have to lose that. That's the joke, because we don't have to lose. We can bring the drama, but from a more conscious place. We want to bring more conscious drama into our life. I used to think that in order for me to be awakened, I would have to surrender my humanity. I would have to renounce this life, and I would have to live a very quiet, reserved, disconnect in order to be able to function as a spiritual person who has remembered the truth of God. Then I discovered that's not true. Actually, the most spiritual thing I can do is be as connected as possible into this life. And so the divine has separated itself, and that is what we're up against, is that there was a conscious choice on God's part to go into separation, to create the drama of this life. God has created this game for itself. It's a difficult niche because I'm here amidst the game of separation saying, what if you remembered that you weren't separate? What if you remembered that you were connected? What if you remembered that truth that you forgot? It's like an itch you can't scratch. I think I forgot something. What if you remembered? What if you remembered that connection? It's a difficult niche because of that. It's a difficult niche because as much as what I'm saying, as much as what I'm saying will ring as true to you and you will feel it in your body, like, oh yeah, oneness, of course. You have agreed to be in separation, and so your separation will fight against the oneness. It's encoded to be that way. It's been programmed to be that way. And so I feel that oftentimes it's like I'm trying to teach people how to swim upstream, which is not impossible, right? We're getting strong enough to be able to remember. Eventually there's a tipping point where enough people remember that it doesn't feel like swimming upstream. It just becomes a way of being. Right now it is like swimming upstream. And so that's why sometimes I'm like, wow, really difficult niche, but I'm here for a challenge. I'm here for a challenge. But here's the thing. And this has been the biggest God joke to integrate for myself. Because like I said, I had this idea that it had to be this particular way. That's why I speak to this all the time. So I thought I had to fit into this box in order to be respected and to be taken seriously. But the God joke is that we incarnated here to have a human experience. Just because we're awakening doesn't mean that we abandon our humanity. doesn't mean that we stop getting to enjoy the pleasures of this life. That is the biggest. I understand why that happened. I understand why there are so many teachings that have said that you have to basically remove yourself from the world in order to remember the truth of God. I understand, because that is, in many ways, the easiest way to get clear. You renounce the life, you go into the monastery, you live in meditation, you live in presence and prayer. You will find God that way. But you'll miss out on the human experience. And so the path that I am teaching and that I am offering is utilizing your life exactly as it is, with all of the ups and downs and the drama and the really being in it, and using that as the method for awakening. When you get your heart broken, using that to get closer to God. When you find yourself in ecstatic joy, using that to get closer to God. When you're sick, when somebody you love passes away, use it to awaken yourself. There is literally nothing that cannot be made a practice. That was the biggest realization for me and the hugest life hack. I don't have to only find God in my practices, in my quietude, in my stillness. Yes, I want to cultivate those things as well. Yeah, of course. But I can find God everywhere, because God is everywhere. There is nothing that I could do I can make anything spiritual. I had this recognition, when I did my first 10-day Vipassana course. I've shared about it here, episode 3. I tell the story. Listen to it like a regular podcast. My video editing skills were bad. I recorded it on Zoom. I didn't know what I was doing. So you can just listen to it. But I tell the story, and it was a wild story. I had a huge spiritual awakening. My first 10-day Vipassana course, it changed the course of my life. And it got me onto practicing meditation every single day. Meditating. And there's times where I do my seated practice, of course. Meditate. But what really got me into a depth of presence was applying meditation to every moment. Every single moment was an opportunity to practice. And I saw that. Thank God I saw that early on. That yes, I love my seated practice. And when I'm washing the dishes, when I'm standing in the line at the bank, when I'm at the grocery store, when I'm in traffic, this is an opportunity to practice presence. And, a practice usually is, for a lot of people, it's maybe 15 minutes. But let's say a practice is an hour. Okay, that's 1 hour out of your day. What are you doing with the rest of your day? You get to cultivate presence from moment to moment to moment. And that's how you get to live your life. It's a way of living. It is a way of being. It's not just I do my meditative practice, then I carry on and I forget everything that I received from it. No. Your whole life is an opportunity to practice. And then you get clear on what it is that you're practicing. What is it that you want? How do you want to be living? Like I said earlier, sometimes when we've been operating from trauma and from unconsciousness, we don't even give ourselves the opportunity to ask the question, what do I want from this life? Who do I want to be? We're just unconsciously playing out the same program that we inherited. When we go inside, we have an opportunity to shift our way of being. You're not just stuck being who you were and that's just it. Well, this is just the way I am, so I'll just stay this way. No. Neuroplasticity. You can change who you are anytime. For me, I was just talking to someone about this yesterday. When I was walking my healing, I'm still walking my healing path, but my initial steps on my healing path, I started to go within myself and I found chaos. It was like a mess of wires in a drawer. Pain and heartbreak and guilt and shame and judgment and so much that wasn't even mine, that was just passed on to me. And I recognized I could spend the whole rest of my life digging for worms. Just, what else? What else am I upset about? What else am I hurt about? Just from this one life. Then I also realized that we live multiple lifetimes. I remembered all my lifetimes and I was like, oh my God, I'm carrying baggage from all these other lifetimes too. I'll never be healed. I'll never be awakened. I'll never experience enlightenment. I'll never experience joy or goodness. Finally, I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to cut cords. Blank slate, like an Etch-a-Sketch. If none of that were a part of the story, if I didn't have to operate based on what I've learned from my peers, my family, the world, if I didn't have to operate that and I could sovereignly choose a totally different operating system, what would I choose? How would I choose to live? Initially, I didn't know. Because at first, I didn't even know that another way was possible. And then it became very clear that another way was possible. And so I had to take time to get clear on, well, if none of that was affecting me, if none of that was part of the story, if I could just start again, who would I choose to be? Once I got clear on that, and once you get clear on that, this isn't just about me, this is about you too. I'm not special. I figured these things out. I pass it on to you, no gatekeeping. Once you know, one, that you can live a different life. You don't have to be stuck in the same patterns. Then you get clear on where you're trying to go. I talked about this a few episodes ago. You can go back, check them out. Once you get clear on where you're trying to go, that North Star, now you can start to rewire your neural connections to be in harmony with the way of being that you are choosing for yourself. You get to start walking towards that version of yourself, but you have to know where you're trying to go. You have to know who you're trying to be. And that in and of itself is a process, because your body will keep trying to go back to the old patterns because it's biologically rooted. And so your body's going to go back to what's familiar. That's just how it works. That doesn't mean that you are a slave to your internal reality. It just means that there's some work that you need to do. You need to learn some practices that'll help you. That's what I'm doing here. I'll leave you links down below if you want to get connected into my world. I've got a monthly membership that is fire. I'm guiding practices. I'm offering teachings in there every single month, masterclasses, community connection. I did this for you to make it easy. Because I know for me, when I first stepped onto this path, I felt so overwhelmed, especially when I started to see how much work I had to do on myself. There was so much I had to do, and I didn't know. I walked most of my spiritual awakening completely blind with no support. I didn't know what I was doing. And now I don't know how why are we doing this alone? Find your resources, find your mentors, find your supports, get help. That's actually the most cool and dope thing to do. We have been conditioned, in order to keep us in separation, we've been conditioned to believe that asking for help is embarrassing. Oh, I don't need help, I'm fine. I'm good. Everything good here. Is it though? Is it really? And if you're honest with yourself and you discover that actually this isn't what I want it to be, find someone to help you. I am here for you. I have one-on-one containers, programs. I'll leave a link for a discovery call. We can chat. Because we shouldn't do this alone. Because the sooner you get help and support, the sooner you get to start living your life already. So you're not just cycling around, rolling around in all these unconscious patterns that aren't even yours. They're not yours. You're full of other people when you should be full of you. Full of you. Who are you? And when you really are actually resourced through yourself and you are full of yourself, your truth, the truth of who you are, you know what happens? You start naturally giving back and serving the world, and you can actually make a difference. You're going to have a very difficult time making a difference in the world if you are not connected to yourself. You have to go inward, root down into yourself. Then you can actually help. You know how many people I talk to that they tell me, Cecilia, I feel like I came here with a purpose. I want to make a difference in the world. I want to help other people. I want to serve. But they're so disconnected from themselves. And so it feels so hard to do it. Why is it so hard to help somebody else? Well, because you have to put your own mask on before you put somebody else's on. Right? In case of emergency. First, help yourself. Then you will be so thoroughly equipped to help others. I have had so many clients where they come to me first to help themselves, where I'm dysregulated, I'm disconnected, I don't know my purpose, I don't know who I am. Help. And then I help them. Next thing I know, they're leaving me messages and saying, oh my God, I think I want to do this work. I want to help other people. This is how we pay it forward. I've had so many people who come into this work just to heal themselves. But once they start to realize how powerful this work is and how much it's changing them for the better, I could cry. They naturally go seeking to start serving. I want to give back because I've received so much. This is the reason I do what I do. It is a miracle, an actual miracle, that I am the way that I am today, considering what I've been through. The first 7 episodes of this podcast, I tell my story. And if you listen to that story and then you see who I am today, it is a miracle that I am the way that I am. Thank you, God, for that. And so, of course, I will devote the rest of my life to giving back. Because what else am I supposed to do? I see, yes, it's great that I have found some level of peace. It's great that I have healed. But I look out into the world and the work's not done. Not free until we're all free. That is the path of the Bodhisattva. We are here. Once you find centeredness, even a little bit, it doesn't have to be perfect enlightenment. And that was one of the things a God joke that I realized years ago. I thought that in order to serve the world, I would have to reach like peak enlightenment, and that's just not true. And maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't know. But I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to wait until I'm perfectly enlightened and in absolute harmony with the universe before I give back. Because in the 15 years that I've been walking this path, I have learned and received such powerful wisdom that I know can change the world. And so I'm going to be here sharing it until the day I die. Until the day I die, I will be in service. Because the work is not done. We are not all free. And until we're all free, I'll keep incarnating back here. I'll keep doing this. I'll keep doing it. And you probably will too. And so release timelines and destinations and, you gotta hurry up to the finish line so I can find peace. Peace is there for you. Peace is waiting for you already. You've already got it, actually. You're just not letting yourself experience it. That's a whole podcast episode. Putting a pin in it. You've already got it. It's already yours. So relax. You got all the time in the world. I literally just an hour ago, I guided a practice inside the Remembership. And I called it, I have all the time in the world. And I was teaching about how when we come into a full-bodied understanding, a holistic belief system, where we somatically experience, I don't need to rush, I have all the time in the world, and we choose that as a state of being, paradoxically, we become so much more effective. We get so much more done. So much more accomplished compared to, oh, I need to rush. I'm not enough. I'm not worthy. I need to be so productive. I need to check all the boxes. That's a really difficult place to be operating from. And it will make everything take so much more time. You're going to make more mistakes. You're going to have to do redos. Whereas when you slow down and you get present and you move with intention and you move like you've got all the time in the world, because on a soul level, you do. This isn't your last rodeo and it's not your first. And that, yes, and this is also the one time that you're going to be in this body. So what are you going to do with it? You are eternal. Relax. Death is, I know we're so afraid of death. We're all going to die. It's all going to happen to us. But I promise you, on the other side of death, it's just, Ram Dass says, death is like taking off a tight shoe. It's actually going to be really relieving. And especially if you live this life all the way, easy. You're going to get to that day being like, yes, I really lived my life. I'm content. I'm ready. Take me back into the all divine. And it's also very human. It's a primal. It's very primal to have fear of death. Again, we could have a whole other podcast episode on that. But if you just come at your life from this steady, regulated, centered, I'm not trying to rush. I trust that I'm going to accomplish all the things that I need to, moving at the speed of nature, you're actually going to get all the things that you want to do accomplished. You're going to do all the things. And you're going to be able to be present while you do it. And you're going to it'll be a much higher quality result that you cultivate in your life. That's inside the membership. Right now it's in the live event replays, but it will also go into the course library depending on when you're finding this. We have over 100 hours of content in the course library, so many practices and healings and teachings and master classes. Oh, the value. I'll leave you the link below. So, invitation to release your urgency so that you can actually be in service. First to yourself. Heal yourself. Take the time. It probably won't even take as long as you think it will. It might also take longer than you think it will. Isn't that funny? But it will take less time if you get supports and you learn the tools. Because if you're just trying to wing it and you're just trying to, you actually have to learn how to meditate. You have to learn how to be present. You have to learn how to regulate yourself. There are resources. I have plenty of them. There are resources to help you to get regulated. And from that regulated state, you're going to be able to accomplish all the things that you want to accomplish here in this body. And you're going to be able to live the life that you desire and enjoy it. And you're very likely going to want to, because once you feel what it feels like, that's the thing, is we don't even know what it feels like to be regulated, to exist in peace. It seems great as a concept. Oh yeah, peacefulness. But we don't have a reference point for it. There are very few people on this planet right now that truly know peace. And peace does not come by praying for it. It does and it doesn't. You can pray for peace and you have to cultivate it within yourself. You have to choose it as an experience. You have to start to respond to your life from a more peaceful, calm, centered, steady energy, rather than this dysregulated, anxious energy. And for a lot of people, they don't even realize that they're in charge of their experience at all. They think, oh, well, this is just how it is. I guess I'm just this way. Nothing can change me. Nothing will fix me. I'm just broken. That's just not true. It's not true. You can change your state of being. You just have to learn how. In this day and age, there's literally no reason. There's no reason at all not to learn how to self-regulate. There's no reason for you to not be in a peaceful state. We have tons of resources, tons of resources. This is why I often like to say, that people say they want peace, but they don't actually, because if you actually wanted it, you would choose it. People say they want things to feel more smooth and calm, and they want good things to come into their life. They want to feel the miracles. They want to feel the goodness, but they're not choosing it. They're choosing chaos and dysregulation and relationships that don't support them, experiences that stir up, because this is just what's been familiar. Again, we're not playing victim to this. That's just what's familiar. This is what we've learned. This is what we've inherited. And so you learn how to interrupt that pattern and break the cycle. And you choose something different. It takes courage. It takes bravery. And here's the thing. In my experience, even when you come to a place of, because I attract people at totally different levels of this. Some people are just stepping onto the spiritual path. Some people have been walking the path for a long time, wherever you are. But some people have been doing the work of spiritual awakening for a long time, doing the practices. Maybe you've been really devoted in your practices, but it's still not quite getting you to the place that you want to be. Well, I meditate every single day and I do breath work and I do all these things, but I still reach for my neuroses. I still reach for my distractions. I still am stuck in these patterns. I get it. I get it. Because ultimately, you can remember the absolute truth of God. You can remember oneness. You can remember love. You can remember that you are inherently worthy, that all things are here for you, that the universe is conscious and it's in relationship with you and it's here to help you. And that's beautiful. And that in and of itself will get you so far. It will help you so much. But at the end of the day, you are still inside of this body that is still operating based on what you inherited. Just recently, I scheduled an appointment with a brand new therapist. So I've been seeing the same therapist for over a decade. And she has been my rock. I often like to remind people that it's actually really, really, really cool to go to therapy. And not just go to your healer and, go do ceremonies and sit with ayahuasca. Don't just do that. Go see an actual clinical therapist who knows all the things. Find the one that fits for you, especially someone who works with somatics. Therapy is cool. Don't sleep on it. So I have been seeing the same therapist for a really long time, and she knows me really, really well, and I'll still see her. But when we first started our relationship, I had barely scratched the surface of my actual human wounding, and I was going through a massive, very intense spiritual awakening. And so my priority in that moment was help me from not going crazy, because I'm realizing these major universal truths. I'm seeing the truth of God. I'm having this huge spiritual experience, and it's causing disruption in my life, and I need help navigating the experiences that I'm having. And so she was really helping me through my spiritual awakening while also helping me with my trauma. Through that process, of course, I started unearthing more and more of my basic human trauma, my primal trauma from this life, from other lifetimes too, but from this life. And she helped me with that. But she had we built a relationship on her awareness of my spiritual connection. And I'm excited because I just booked this new therapist. And I have such a depth of understanding of my wounding. I know my story upside down and backwards. I know all the things, and I have remembered the truth of God. I remember that I'm completely loved, that I'm worthy, that I have value, that I am beautiful and wonderful, that there's nothing to fix, that I'm perfect exactly the way that I am. And I know that I'm interconnected with everything and that everything loves me and that I could have anything in the world. But it doesn't take away from the fact that at a base level, there's still things that I'm working out through my nervous system because of my developmental years. Like in utero, early developmental years, there are things that I'm still working out. Even with all that awareness, I still have to do the nitty-gritty work to regulate my nervous system every single day in order to stay calm, in order to stay present, in order to stay connected. It's going to be so special to go see my new therapist and say, hey, I've got all this spiritual awareness, but when I come in here, I'm just a girl who was hurt, who's heartbroken, who's sad. If you want to know my story, the first 7 episodes, I share it very openly and candidly, and it's a whole story. Listen to it like a regular podcast, unless you don't care about my shitty video. The video gets better after episode 8. To go in and say, this is exactly what happened. This is exactly the symptoms. This is what I've been dealing with. Please help me. The day that I booked this therapist, I had a really deep ha-ha. And it was exactly what I just said. And so many people in the spiritual community are doing all this work to remember. I need to remember the truth. I need to remember the truth. I need to remember my connection to God. Oh, we are all one. We're all one. Just love and light. But there is a trap where we bypass our humanity. And as somebody who has been a participant in the spiritual community for a very long time and time again, I see people who are trying to play healed and trying to say, oh, I have reached this level of enlightenment and I'm special because I am up here. I remembered my past lives and I've remembered God and but if you tell them that you're still healing from something, all of a sudden you're low vibrational. Or you're just dysregulated. You haven't figured it out. Nope. Disqualified from spirituality because you're not enlightened enough. And that really hurt my feelings for a while because for me, I've seen through that for a really long time. Like, yeah, God, yeah, love, yeah, oneness, and my human being is still very sad. And it created a rupture. For me, it created a rupture of, well, I have a spiritual connection and I understand God and I understand unity. I even experience it viscerally and somatically. But maybe there's something wrong with me because I still haven't fully worked out my humanness. And I kept coming up against people that were operating from that place. Well, if you bring any of your stuff in here, well, you can't hang. And I don't like that. That's super bypassy. No, thank you. I'm a human being. They got my heart broken, like really bad, by someone who was supposed to care for me, who was supposed to be there for me. And it disrupted my development, like my base development. And I cannot stand behind any person or any community or any group of people that is denying the humanity in people. Because now you are skipping over a very essential step, which is, yes, it's great to remember that you are one, and it's great to be in relationship with God. I mean, that's what I teach and what I guide people. Yes, you want that. That will help you. But the reason it will help you is it will give you support in healing on a biological primal level. Because that's really the work that we're doing here. We're healing our primal body. We're healing the animal that was wounded, that has been rejected by religion. So many religions have abandoned our humanity and made it bad and wrong and dirty. And that has caused a major severance from ourselves and from life. It's made us very sick and sad and lonely. And so in order to come back, we have to come back into our humanity and we have to own it. We have to love it. We have to love the parts of ourselves that were hurt and heartbroken. And I know it's not the sexiest work. I get that. I know it's not that sexy. You know what's sexy? We are so turned on by the idea of being enlightened. But no person has gotten enlightened by skipping over their humanity. You have to get right with your humanity first. Then, once you do, you find peace. And that's where you see people who are really present and connected and happy and full of love because they love themselves all the way down to their animal. So it's going to be really dope to sit down across from my new therapist and to say, look, I've gone on a whole journey of awakening. I don't need you to bring me to God. I need you to give me the space where I can cry in your chair about all the things that hurt. Because I have found that in the spiritual community, there are very few that can actually hold that. I was having a conversation with a friend the other day because I have been on this journey of making new friends, meeting new people. And I had my third date with a new friend recently, and she told me about her family and her history. And then she asked me and she said, tell me about your family. What's your background like? I took a deep breath. And I said, okay, I will, but we're going to set a container. My story is heavy, so be prepared. And then I told her my story. And I saw her. She got it. This is the thing. I am choosing, my next era is choosing people who can hold all of me. Not just the bright and shiny, oh, Cecilia, the oracle, professional channel, doing magic, connecting to God. Yes, that's great. We love that about Cecilia. Grateful to bring it. But I need people in my life also that know where I've been and what I've come from, and that they're not fumbling that part of me or running away from that part of me. There's a part of me that's really sad and still really hurt, and I've got her. But as I cultivate new relationships, the new level of vulnerability, because for so many years I had been cultivating these really deep relationships. And I think at some point I'll probably tell that story. But last year, I had a really beautiful, tight-knit community. We spent years cultivating so much intimacy. And then there was a rupture, and the person who was involved with the rupture didn't know how to repair, wasn't willing to repair, and the whole thing blew up. And although I still have those connections, there's this wound in it now. And so I've been having to navigate, okay, what do I want from my relationships? I have all these really deep connections. I have friends in my life that know my story back to front, who can hold me so solid and are there for me no matter what. And they really get who I am top to bottom. And then I'm also opening up to new relationships and getting to navigate with an understanding from this place of deep ownership of what I have walked and what I have been through. I'm now navigating, okay, how do I share my story in a way where I take full ownership and authority over it, while also navigating and testing, let's see how I can say this, testing what these new people in my life are actually available for and what actually is safe to share. Or maybe I wait a few more times before going deeper. And it's an interesting thing to walk, because there was a time in my life where what I needed was to tell people what I've been through and then get reassurance that I was still loved. And I feel like I'm beyond that. I don't need anyone to validate me. I know that I am loved. Period. No matter what I carry, no matter what I have not yet gotten over, no matter the hurt that I still feel from time to time, I know. And so the relationships I'm cultivating now get to be, I get to feel into how much I share of my experience, at what time, and I get to find out what people are available for. It's a new way of beginning a relationship to come in more healed and more in acceptance and forgiveness for my own path. And that's a relatively recent occurrence, I still held so much shame for the pain that I carry because I've been in the spiritual community, and I've seen time and time again where if I come with my love and my light and my God and spiritual awakening, oh yes, we love that. We love that so much. But if I say also I'm healing from these really painful things, and I've gone through things that most people don't want to hear about, that makes people uncomfortable because they don't know how to hold that. I have seen the way that people who are so enlightened actually aren't able to hold because they haven't met themselves at that depth. And so it's part of my mission to help people to learn how to hold themselves at a depth so that they can have deeper, more intimate relationships with others and with life. So, new therapist incoming. I'm so curious to see how that unfolds because I'm just a different person than when I started my relationship with my last therapist. I know so much more about who I am. I know who I am. And so I can really ask for what I need. And I can be really clear on my expectations in this relationship with this new therapist and how I want to be met. And I know that will translate into the way that I relate to my current relationships, as well as the new ones that are incoming. Because this life is so short. It's also really long. I'm the queen of yes and. This life is so short though. And I don't want to waste a moment stuck in patterns that are not mine. A moment longer than is necessary. I want to live. I want to be happy. I want to experience joy and freedom. That's my North Star. And I've gotten really clear on how I want to be living and how I want to be engaging in this life. And you can do that too. So get really clear. Who do you want to be? How do you want to live? How do you want to express? And then use that North Star while you're going inward to start to reroute your inner compass towards the version of you that you're choosing, rather than the version of you that was unconsciously coded by something outside of you that wasn't in alignment with your truth. So you can start living inside out rather than outside in. It's where your power lies. And if you need support in that, I'm here for you. I'm going to drop links down below in the show notes so that you know how to get a hold of me. I'll make it really easy for you. All right, I think that's a good place to land the plane. Thank you so much for being with me today for the Awaken Broadcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, wherever you're watching, please like, share, review, comment. It really helps me to grow. Subscribe to my channel or my show. Follow me on Instagram at Awaken with Cecilia to stay in touch with all that I am here to bring, all that I'm sharing with you. And you can get inside my monthly membership, the membership, if you want to have ongoing access to my work. I think that's it. I'm sending you so much love. I hope you have such a beautiful day. And I will see you not next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after that. Bye for now. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for the Awaken Broadcast. If this episode resonated with you, supported you, or awakened something within you, I'd love for you to subscribe or follow the show. Leave a review, share it with a friend, or drop a comment wherever you're listening or watching. It genuinely helps this work reach the people it's meant for, and I'm very grateful for that. If you want to go deeper, you can find me on Instagram at Awaken with Cecilia, Cecilia, or explore everything I offer at awakenwithcecilia.com. I've linked it all for you in the show notes, masterclasses, my monthly membership, and other ways to dive in. Thanks again for being here. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next broadcast. Until then, I'm sending you so much love.